This guy, his name's Alan, and Alan wants nothing more than for people to think he's all high class and fancy. Then Alan, he becomes a career con man to try and get rich, and he commits a bunch of fraud, and he keeps getting caught. So he's constantly in and out of prison. But then one day, unfortunately, his father passes away, and Alan, he inherits a fourth of an oil interest. Now, this oil interest will him about $25 a month, so it's not much. But he is now technically, officially, an oil man. With that, he starts his own oil company in Texas called Prosper Oil and Gas. Alan, he's a charismatic guy, and he has good marketing skills, and he starts attracting people to invest in his company. And soon the money starts rolling in. Pretty quickly, he's got more than 100 people investing in his oil and gas company, and he's controlling around $7 million of their money. Then he hires a bunch of employees, and he starts spending all that money. He buys himself a mansion, and he buys his employees expensive gifts, nice cars, and Rolexes. Here's the thing, though. Alan just recently got out of prison, so he's technically still on parole, and he's not supposed to open any new checking accounts or credit cards. Then, of course, someone tips off the feds, and they start investigating, and they discover that his oil company, Prosper Oil and Gas, is nothing but a big Ponzi scheme. For Alan, he knows the feds are onto him, and he can't be rich and fancy if he goes back to prison. So he meets up with his assistant, who is also his boyfriend, this guy, Cody. Alan and Cody, they decide to flee, and they take a train from San Antonio all the way to San Francisco. Once he's there in San Fran, Alan, he can't just lay low. He's got to be fancy. So he immediately starts making money by setting up a new oil company, and he starts collecting new investors. Meanwhile, he and Cody's relationship, it starts breaking down, and they start fighting. And Cody, he's like, fuck this, and he decides to leave. So he flies back to Texas, and there, the feds meet him at the airport, and he tells them everything about Alan. He snitches. So then, bam, they go and arrest Alan in San Francisco, and he's sentenced to 20 years in prison. But prison isn't going to stop Alan. He can't be high class and fancy in there, so he starts making plans to escape. Even while he's locked up, bro is still scamming. He sets up a bunch of fake companies and collects more investors, and he cons around $700,000 from people. Now, eventually, they relocate him from the Texas prison to another facility in Colorado. At this point, he's been locked up for 6 years. Here's a selfie he posted while in prison. Anyway, Alan's ready to get out, and he starts working on his escape. One day, he jumps into an unattended prison van, and he quietly just drives away. And that's it. That's how he escaped. So later, he abandons the van, he rents a U-Haul, and he stops at Walmart and Target to buy a non-prison outfit. And then he heads to Texas. And once he's in Texas, he just disappears. He just falls off the map. And there's no record of him after that until about a year or so later when he turns up in Palm Beach, Florida. And when he first arrives in Palm Beach, he sees all the rich men and women there, and they're dining, and they're socializing at their croquet clubs, and they're all just so fancy. Alan is like, oh, these are my people. I want to be one of them. What does he do? He invents a new identity for himself. He changes his name, and he finds himself a younger boyfriend, a shoe salesman, this guy, Kevin. Kevin, of course, has no idea Alan is an escaped conflict. He thinks he's a wealthy oilman. Regardless, they're together one day, and they go have lunch at the local croquet club. That is when they meet this rich, older woman. She's a widow, so we'll call her Widow. Widow is exactly the person Alan needs to win over. And lucky for him, she thinks he's hilarious and charming. And so Widow, she starts inviting Alan and Kevin out to events, and she starts introducing them to her wealthy friends. And soon enough, they all go to a big fundraiser, where Alan, he gets photographed by a local magazine called the Palm Beach Daily. This magazine features that photo in one of their issues, where they're showcasing some of the wealthy people of Palm Beach. This is a huge deal to Alan, because it means that he's finally an accepted and respected member of this exclusive Palm Beach club. He's finally, officially, all high class and fancy. Until one day, someone, we don't know who, someone who knows Alan and knows he's an escaped convict, they read that magazine that he's featured in, and they see his photo, and they recognize him instantly. Of course, they go and they snitch and they tip off the feds. Hey, that guy's not fancy at all. He's a convict. Then the feds, they go to Palm Beach and bam, they arrest Alan. Here's his mugshot. He gets charged with mail fraud and wire fraud and escaping custody. He actually hasn't been to trial yet. So as far as I know, he's still waiting in jail for his trial to start. He's probably feeling not so fancy anymore.